and then have some things, then do some stuff, 'cause we're people and junk. We're gonna, alright, we're gonna do, yeah, alright, freaking, alright. So, how's everybody doing out there on the YouTube scape? Just, being a person, you know, just loving life, living, and let living. Live and let lovely. Oh man, I love life. Live life, love, laugh. Ah. So, yep. Let's come up with a topic, because I do seem to think sometimes that there are a lot of really sensitive subjects you get to on the outskirts of a topic, and the reason why I think they're so sensitive is because, I mean, they've been pretty much used for every single topic. Like, say for instance, I like the song. It kind of reminds me of the way that subjects bleed together. Whenever you use something to describe, like the way that comedians kind of have like a sarcasm little drawl, you know, like the way that people use euphemisms and a bunch of different other stuff to be able to form an opinion, or not form an opinion, but share an opinion. And I think it's to reach the most possible people as possible, I guess. It's like, if you don't want to be controlled by society, a part of you has to not care about it. You know? A part of you has to not jump into it, you know? Because that's when other people start to pull the strings. And a lot of times, even in America, people are manipulated into doing all sorts of things because of the fact that they are easily manipulatable. There are a lot of different people that want to promote positivity throughout the races, and that's something to be kind of like admired, and a lot of positivity, I think, goes towards a lot of things that people did and went through that were that were pretty hard, to say the least. Pretty difficult and almost mind-numbing. And a lot of times people don't have the capacity to be able to think past themselves sometimes. And when they try to think past themselves, they think they're leaving something behind, or they're trying to show you a message and then have your opinion, because it's like when I see that, all I see is people not making up their minds. When I see that, all I see is people using a message instead of actually believing in it, using it to make money and profit off of people who would normally never spend their money. in that lies, I think, the whole process of bank, and that lies the whole process of elimination of subjects and a bunch of different things from your life that are more of a snapshot of something. And when you appreciated that one thing, you were controlled or being controlled by a certain thought, and that certain thought made you believe that anything was possible or that anything was probable. But in the case of actually being alone, that's the only reason why that would be even satisfying or vilifying at all. Like, these video games teach us that solitude and a lot of loneliness is the way to go, or something like that. And this usually is only created for people who have serious social issues, and that's kind of what I had a little bit. I would use jokes to be able to feel more comfortable in society because I didn't feel like I belonged. And it had nothing to do with my gender or sexuality or anything like that. It had everything to do with the fact of I thought that I was a different kind of life, and or at least a different kind of thinking life, you know, or maybe even a different kind of emotional life. But I mean, what's more serious, I think, is people don't understand that there are bigger opinions than what people might think. There are bigger options than people might even go for. And what people don't really realize is the fact that the more you look towards a goal, the more you're setting your goals, and the more you're realizing your ambitions and all those other different things, the more you're starting to realize that you're living someone else's life. Someone else who was bent on sending a message towards the people who were at large or willing to, and that's the term chasing ghost. Emotionally trying to do something that's already been done 1,000 times before. And the reason in entertainment why it's been so repeated all the time is because I think a lot of times people think that because our people aren't saying anything back, they're not getting through, I guess, or they believe they're not getting through, when in actuality people sometimes have already made up their minds about something. And the only reason why it seems like they haven't is because they want to avoid suspicion, I guess, to be able to be freely thinking and making their own opinions because of abuse, of trauma, of training, or even untraining, or brainwashing, or pretty much anything that you can get your hands on that is addicts, drugs, and a lot of different things of people who trying to numb that memory, or a lot of different people who are just around town that seem to just can't find a direction. And that's what it feels like when you lose your first job. You know, when you lose your first job, you're like, wow, it's all over, huh? Or like I think what people don't realize about it being all over, it means that you finally get to move on with your life. That's the reason why when you get older, people are like, oh, you know, the best thing about canceling plans is you don't have to go to that commitment. You know, you don't have to have that commitment. And that's the best part about canceling plans. And when you get older, you start to realize that moving and shaking and going places was because you were being controlled by something that you couldn't see or couldn't hear. And not just to make anyone fearful of that, but those are just emotions that you believed in when you were younger, or things that you thought were real, but in actuality could have been detrimental to your health if you stayed in it for too long. It's like the whole song about on that country song that says if you're in hell, you can kind of get out before the devil even knows you're there. It's like we make our own hells in some cases, but in most cases, what we create becomes our hell if we stay in it for too long. And I think people that are treating that like life, and they get it confused that your emotions can be your enemy. But what you don't realize is that your emotions were tied to something. Your emotions were tied to your brain, to your life, to your things, the stuff you have, even to the air we breathe. We affect things around us, and it's natural for people to believe and think that they're stronger than they actually are. It's natural for people to believe that lie because that lie gets them to that point. But that's the point too, is to remember what gets you there is also to forget what gets you past that. And that's what I believe what true death is. They say a coward dies a million times because the road less traveled is the road that basically you should have gone down, you know? But understandably so, if you go down the road less traveled, there are always options that you lose. There are always people that you say goodbye to. And there are always things that you don't realize are on your mind, but they're in the back of your mind just hanging out. And if it turns into something, then you could be in big trouble, you know? But that's not the point about being in big trouble. The point is did you learn a lesson? The point is, if you learned that lesson, did you find something? Did you find yourself? Did you find your life? Did you find your ambitions, your goals, what you want to do with the rest of yourself, with the rest of your life, with the rest of everything, and become more positive and more self-reliant? When you're young, you think that everything's given to you. And that's the emotion you feel, is you feel that someone will always take care of you. And that's why the whole point about, I think, that game, the Telltale games, The Walking Dead, was don't go it alone. But sometimes you have to go alone. Sometimes you have to go out there and see what you're made of. And the more you keep using and bruising or abusing yourself or others, the more it kills you inside, because the more you're creating a rift between what was once you and what is now you. So and that's where personality disorders comes from, for the most part. Got him. And the more you blame yourself for something that you didn't do, the more you don't realize certain goals and you start to live someone else's life. The more you try to be someone else for someone else. But understandably so, if you try to be someone else for someone else, then what you're living is a double life, and what you should do is sometimes say goodbye to things, or say goodbye to people. I know that in my life I've seen some pretty messed up things, but I also know that my life isn't over. I'm not retiring just yet. So I'm not suicidal anymore, because I once was, and for about 20 minutes I was. 20 minutes I thought that I was actually going to do something drastic, and I realized that most of the time when you're in those places or when you're with those people, you lose a part of yourself, and it's replaced by this persona that you live. And you have to realize and understand that that persona is you. That persona is what you believed in when you thought everything was possible. Every one of your dreams and every one of your aspirations. That character inside of you, or whatever you believe in, is something that you can be true if worked on and practiced with and completely and utterly made anew. It may not be the same as what it is, but it's always something. And the more you realize those goals and realize those aspirations, and the more you have the more time you have to think about it, the more you're able to try to apply yourself. The more you're able to plan, the more you're able to make something of yourself. But if you don't, if you wind up just using it again, you go back to that place where you believed that everything was possible, and you find out that you just dashed your own dreams. All of them. Every single time. Every time you took another contract, every time you didn't take a break, every single time you didn't just lay down and relax and look at the ceiling or stare off into space and try to think about something new, the more afraid you got of actually new things. And the more you felt like there was no more options. And the more you felt like there weren't any more options, the more you realized that taking away those options was something that you felt as though was betraying. You thought someone was betraying. You thought someone wasn't doing something right. But what in reality and in orderly conduct, we see ourselves and we see the things we made of ourselves. And if we look in the mirror and hate it, then we did it to ourselves. And that's the ugly truth that no one wants to completely and utterly destroy with anything. The truth about whether or not something comes through, the truth or not about the whether something's real or not, the way if we make it real, if we try to make it real, and we try to nurture and respect that thing, because in truth, every piece of art is like our baby. If we treat that baby, if we treat that thing that we have, that art baby, that thing, that the opinion or that belief that lives on that paper, if we treat it with disrespect, or if we try to treat it with disrespect, what we get back is nothing but hurt, pain, injustice, and degradation. The more we look past ourselves and see the life we once knew fading, all the energy, all the electricity around us, all the things around us that are definitely alive. The more we shun them, the more we tell them they don't exist, the more we tell them they're not real, the more it becomes exactly like what we hated. The more we shape the world around us, and the more we lie to ourselves when we die or when we lose ourselves completely and don't come back. But understandably so. If we don't come back, we disappoint ourselves again and again and again and live a coward's life. And I'm not trying to disrespect cows or anything like that, but the more we live a life in the shadows, the more there will be no shadows to hide in once everything is finished. One tin soldier rides away. That thing. It's an allegory. And it made me have a lot of perspective, and it stopped me from doing a lot of things that I knew were stupid, but I wanted to do anyways because I felt as though I was proving something to someone. And I didn't realize that that at the same time of proving or trying to prove something to someone, I was letting myself down. and I wind up doing stupid things and making myself look embarrassing and dumb and exactly like my dad, because my dad embarrassed himself over many seasons and many times just looking and asking for someone to care about him. But understandably so, he didn't realize what true love was. He didn't understand it because he had never experienced it. He didn't even know his father, and his mom used to leave for 6 months at a time when he was like 10. So my dad knew what responsibility was, though. And my mom knew what responsibility was as well. And I think that's the reason why they mess with me sometimes. Or most of the time, because that, and they might have secretly won the lottery. No, they didn't. No, it was funny, I guess, to me, because a part of me likes to believe that everything would be easier if I had something to give or something to realize, but I need to be able to understand myself before I actually do those things. And I need to understand what I'm getting at or what I'm trying to get at, because most of the times the metaphors even slip by me. So, I'm a very complicated person. The more I think about it, though, I think it's not that I like hentai. I just like the preservation of an idea, and the preservation of that idea is to keep things simple and but also to look forward to something. And it may be perverted as hell, but understandably so, is made by absolute professionals and perverts. And a lot of times I think that people don't realize that they don't want to live a fantasy, or they don't want a fantasy. They don't want to live a moment or anything like that. They just want something that no one else has. And the real reason for most of people actually going into like BDSM and a lot of different things is because they feel like they've lost something, or they feel like they've given up on themselves, and a lot of times it's not just that, but that added to the fact that they've burned so many brain cells with everything that they did that they're just numb to it. And it's the only thing that they're numb to, the only thing that they don't feel pain at. And it's not sad, but it's intriguing sometimes that people were like that, or are like that. People that believe that torture or pain or suffering, or in any way isolation, can alleviate pain more so than a structure and support and mostly family and friends. And to be able to believe in something that is by nature destructive, but understandably so, there are people that believe in that metaphor to take care of completely violent animals, and realize that they should never look past what they're seeing, though. They should never try to look into what the beast is or what the animal is. They should never try to make sure that that animal, or never try to find out what they're thinking, because what they're thinking is probably something so far off that it would confuse you, you know? Or trying to control their behavior a lot. Understandably so, the more we become friends with our, what's the word? Our pets, or companions or friends. The more we look at ourselves and see that it wasn't the way that we thought it was. That dude who was waving a dollar bill in front of you wasn't going to have the answer when it came time to actually do shit, or actually do stuff, or to actually make your mind up, or for it to allow you to make your own mind up, because they'd much rather you not have that. And realize that the simple fact of what people would call players, or like pimps and all the other different stuff like that, and killers and murderers, they pretty much all swim in the same boat, because it's sinking, definitely. The more you play the game, the more you allow yourself to be controlled by someone else's game. The more you look to yourself and find the thing you've been needing, or the thing you've been wanting, the more you let go of that code or that pattern, and the more you realize that you have evolved past it, and have evolved past it millions and millions of years ago, as creatures, or as whatever, all that other shit, whatever people think or believe, however they think or believe, understandably so, that thing one day will take their life, emotionally and physically. That is the truth, and only the known truth, of people who keep believing lies and stupid bullshit. But understandably so, it doesn't mean they shouldn't have the time of day. It doesn't mean they should live in fear or live in disturbedness. If they want to die, or if they want to let go, then make them comfortable. If not for yourself, then for the millions of people who always watch and look around and see hurt and pain and no alleviation. And if you're not that kind of person, if you're just a person that loves destruction, then eventually it will consume you. And that's the absolute truth. But whether you realize absolute destruction will consume you, or whether you don't realize it, it's still the same. Whatever God or whatever non-God you believe in. Whatever life we put our life into, it will hate us for it forever. And that's why children are so desperately clingy at first, and then realize that it's not enough, and then desperately try to push away to be able to save themselves, because they believe they're giving something away emotionally, and sometimes even physically, which sucks and is terrible. But the reality of the fact is that people most likely will never change enough to be able to fill themselves out and allow for life to heal through them. Okay, that was weird. I shot that dude in the head, but he might have been moving too fast. Ew. The most I see on my radar is like a lot of dumb stuff. People thinking they're better than everyone else. And a bunch of stuff that makes no sense at all. Not because I'm all understanding at all, Because nor have I ever wanted to be. Why would I want to understand something that's non-understandable and have people not get me for 1,000 years, and then for 1,000 years later, everyone that sees me but remembered the things that I wrote down was like, oh my god, that guy was right. Holy shit, he's so great. And then you realize that the more right you are, the more people ignore you. If you rub it in their face, they're just going to be like, oh, sure, yeah. I was with, what's his name? Tico and all those other guys. It's like, that's why the nature of an informant is usually, what's the word? Fickle. Not fecal. That's poo-poo. So, what I find to be, even more thrilling and entertaining is the fact of the way that you can change people's emotions in a crowd when they're angry about something is a lot easier than changing their emotions when they're completely and utterly, like, not even emotional about it. When that person is not emotional, it's harder to change their mind. And sometimes people enjoy the challenge, but don't realize that if you bring them down and bring them up again, it's like they're experiencing the same height of emotion, but it's because you did something and then you did nothing. If you do something and then do nothing, people are like, oh my god, he did something, and then he did nothing and just stood back and said, what? Oh my god, he could do something? Like, that whole thing. It's like, that whole word of mouth situation happens, and the more you realize that you're not special, there are people exactly like you. Emotionally speaking, and not just physically, or the real reason why a lot of people are training is sometimes just to gain approval from one person, because they want it to be their life to be that amazing or that difficult. I mean, there are people out there that make their life more difficult to be able to please someone that they think is beyond pleasing. And they believe if they please that one person, then they could please anyone. Or if they believe that if by changing that person's mind, they could change anyone's mind. And in some cases, it's true. In some cases. But most cases, it's just cosmetic. It's like someone said something to agree with you, to be able to not hurt your feelings in any way, because they know that if they hurt your feelings, then you get really angry about it. Understandably so. There are a lot of times when people don't realize they're on borrowed time. And whenever you give something away of yourself, or lie about something, you give a piece away of yourself. You put yourself in a vat of what people have or what people are, and those people decide your fate, because most of the time those people are exactly like you. You will be judged by a jury of your peers. And realization of the fact is that it's more fair to do that than to actually be among the crowds who are emotional and in some cases very, very violent. And not in most cases, because people should understand that there are a lot of different reasons why people start to lose their way. There are a lot of reasons why people start wanting not to exist anymore, because they feel as though their life is fading. When in actuality, they're just feeling an ache or feeling some sort of just pain that they should just go and get a freaking I almost did it. Or go get therapy. Because it's not some alien trying to do weird things to you. It's not some dude trying to shrink your brain down so you don't feel as much pain because your brain isn't moving as much. It's not that at all. It's therapy. It's working and realizing your limitations. Though realizing that your limitations are that of what's the word? A perfectly notable experience. And also knowing that no matter what, people are going to try to control you. No matter what people say or do or try, say that they're letting go or anything like that, people are always going to try to keep you down. And if you are giving in to those people, just imagine what idiots on other levels would do. On other levels of government, on other levels of stupidity, on other levels of a bunch of different stuff. And I need to change this. On other levels of smartness or anything like that. Realize that everyone has basically the same amount of smartness. Basically, the ability to get the same amount of smartness. But understandably so, there are some that are spectacular, I guess, or overzealous, or know what to say and when to say it to be able to make people think and feel certain things. And those people aren't smarter than you. They're not better than you. But they just know how to be able to present themselves. They know composition. They know how to appropriate themselves in a certain way to make you think that they actually have something that you don't. And that's the basic structure of marketing. To believe that something is evil or something is just, oh my gosh, oh it's so evil, those people will eventually fade away. To realize that over time, structure and analysis fade away as well. And you're left with the thing you were aspiring to. The thing you thought was so amazing when you were out there the first time. Got him. All right. But the more you realize a dream, the more your life is elevated to that thing, and you realize that you're the same person you were when you were there. It's just the situation was so exciting because it was something that possibly couldn't happen. And it's like being in the hearts and minds of other people is sometimes what we desire more than anything. Being remembered is sometimes more important to someone than ever sustaining any life at all. Because in that life they believe that they are something. In that life they believe that they are anything. Anything but themselves. We think, we dream, our mind wanders, and people don't realize how they get back. And that's a situation meant for destruction. Meant for, what's the word? And in some cases, society itself molds us into something that should be destroyed. The realization of the fact is that a lot of people who create suggestion are the ones who control it until it's actually made, until you're actually made. And then in order to fall apart as per their instructions isn't the end of your life. I know a lot of friends, or some friends, that have actually killed themselves after they realize this truth. When I look at something, when I look at someone, all I see is a possible. I don't see someone and love them forever. if I know them, I will love them until the day I change, or the day I move on, or the day I go. Because I'm not going to call it death, because I still don't believe in it. Plus, I don't play games with figments of my imagination. I realize that I kind of hallucinate sometimes. I realize that I'm off sometimes. It's schizoaffective disorder. It's a pretty harsh mistress. But also, too, it's not a mistress, because she doesn't even want to have sex with you. Ever at all. It's harsh. It hurts. And it's torture. But understandably so, with the right medication, it's manageable. Also, the realization of the fact is that solitude may be damning, or maybe hurting, it may be killing you inside almost. But also realize that it's not actually doing that. You are technically killing yourself. You can say what you want, you can say how you want, you're only suggested to live for a cause, but that cause eventually kills you, or that cause eventually causes you some stress, and that stress turns into cancer because you decided to go eat something that was in the drain, and because you wanted to end it all. Understandably so. The only reason why you wanted to end it all is because you're being manipulated by something around you. Understandably so. That thing was not the person that you think it is. Usually it's nothing and no one, and not at all. We are controlled, and we look at patterns because we believe we want to be a pattern. We want to be something that follows that patterns would actually want or be around, and that's in the certain sense of animal husbandry. People feel lonely, and sometimes they only need something to sleep near us in order for us to actually feel like we have company, or someone to sleep near us. And understandably so, that doesn't always last for long. The realization of the fact is that sometimes we think things are possible, or we believe something in a fantasy, and we know it's not possible because we couldn't actually dare to bring ourselves there. And a lot of times there are so many different ways to manage your anger and manage your thoughts, but the avenues sometimes are closed because you close yourself off from those things, or you shut yourself down because you believe that somehow you're creating something, or you're being somewhere somehow, when in actuality you used to just do weird shit when you were a kid and imagine you were in a spaceship, and then that's what you thought because that's what it was. You were imagining we were in a spaceship, and it's good to imagine because eventually those things actually could become real. Understandably so, it's a lot more difficult to actually think those things whenever you're believing in something that isn't structured. But understanding the nature of structure is understanding the reality of experience and history, and what has happened and what will happen if we don't sometimes let go of our past and realize that there's a future out there for us waiting and calling all the goddamn time, saying, when are you gonna bring that awesome goddamn flying car? When are you gonna do it? It's gonna be tight. Like that whole thing. And it's gonna be amazing. Floating on the consciousness of other people, or putting the weight down on their shoulders and not your own, is it's pretty hard. It's pretty harsh sometimes because people believe that they're actually controlling things when in actuality all they had control of was themselves, and they were just suggesting things to you. The realization that there's something out there that people deserve, or there's something out there that gives you leverage over someone else. The point is to not use that as leverage. To realize that leverage is the reason for wars. Leverage is the reason for idiocy. Leverage is the reason for no deal. And leverage is the reason for getting nothing in return. Leverage is the reason for every war there has ever been in the entire history of man. Ever. Realizing that someone wants something and someone knows something, and that someone that knows something wants that thing that that person has. Always. Everything. All the time. Realizing that people want to know things. They want to be in the loop so the next time they're around they can be able to take something that there wasn't even yours, that you didn't find, because you would have found it if they weren't there. But understanding the simple fact of suggestion and a lot of different code words and hypnotizing someone before they actually get on a plane. The more reasons you look for a pattern, the more patterns you'll find. And the more patterns you look for, the more people you'll find. And the more people you look for, the more you'll be healthy and happy, because you looked for those patterns and you found those things. And you found all the gold or all the diamonds and on the earth, and no one else has any, so you have the market, so share and then make one so you can make some money. Why? Because diamonds go in computers. That's where diamonds go. They go in computers and things that are important to people. And though people don't have that something, they have more than just diamonds. They have sustaining light of life, sustenance. And why would you want to mess with that? You don't want to mess with that. Stop messing with it. Stop acting like it's something else. Stop acting like it's more than what it is. It's magic. It's amazing. I'm going to use it to make sure this one dude doesn't try to have sex with my wife. It's like that old saying, you know. It's like you gotta take things one step at a time. I believe in you. Understandably so. More than anything you could possibly even imagine. There are more there are a lot more things that people give themselves, or people take from themselves, that they don't give to what's the word, to people in need. And people are, and actually, a lot of times people believe that people in need are actually the people who don't deserve it, because they're what society downtrodden, and they should know that's not the real thing. Because let me tell you why. Because all religion is racist. If you ever look into any religion, everything you'll see is a bunch of different races, people of color, or people of not color, people of a bunch of different colors, all talking and doing absolutely nothing. Doing absolutely nothing except talking to each other. Talking, sharing information, and understanding of what they do, because they come up with the what? The patterns you see in everyday life. The patterns, all the things that go right, all the things that you don't think about, that everyone else does. It's beautiful, isn't it? Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. It's probably made by religion, because they make up words. They make up a whole bunch of different stuff. They are the ones who they have the ideas behind a lot of different things that you read, watch, and see. And they want you to think that there's a purpose behind all of it. Because there isn't. There never will be a purpose for it. It's just a distraction from you going too fast. Don't go too fast. Because they want to follow you. And hand out pamphlets. Suggestion, and that's it. And that's where people get all their stuff from. It's where people get all their things, all their wealth, all their imaginable things, suggestions of ideas that aren't actually thought of, when in actuality they were introduced to society a very long time ago. And that's why people are like, oh man, all ideas have actually been done before. It's like, no, they haven't. Flying cars aren't real yet. All right, keep thinking. All right. When flying cars are real, you can rest. When flying cars are real, you can think about the thing you did a long time ago and then cry over it, but then have a cup of tea because it's really delicious. Or don't. Have a cup of freaking energy drink or coffee or anything. Or drink a product, because by everything you buy, by everything you use, you are accepting the thing we eat from. All the stuff. I'm paganistic, all right? You're accepting yourself, and you're accepting everything that you ever lose, and you get back everything all at once. Understandably so, sometimes you don't, and you get a fart in the face, or you get someone to be angry at, and sometimes that's not always a good thing, but when you're really happy and you don't know what's controlling that thought, someone else can always remind you of when you were angry and you yelled at that one guy or that one girl, and then it came back to haunt you, and you didn't realize that she was a fucking hot, goddamn fucking sexy ass woman, that she was so nice and so wonderful of a person that she actually like protected information for you, or did something that was really nice or something like that for you. And you, instead of trying to be her friend or trying to be her lover or trying to be her life partner, you decided that you were going to go with a chick who you thought was cool. And that's not bad. But you didn't even be her friend. You weren't even a friend. So just like, oh, okay. So just go fuck yourself then. Right. Okay. Because I beat you all at video games anyways. Video games. They called it that because it's a video that you can move around, and it's a game that it's not real, and it's never going to happen. That's why it's called video games. Because it's not a real game. It's not like It or Freeze Tag or what's the word? What's the word? Jeez. What is that word? It's not like love at all. It accepts you no matter what. And it will love you forever and always. And I gotta go to the circle because I've been running around like an idiot for like 5 minutes. We gotta kill this dude, I think. Oh man, just love and love. Live, learn, and then get diapers for your baby. Damn it, that would have been so tight. Got 2 first aid kits. I'm okay. I'll be just fine. As long as we find a vehicle. So remember, you're lucky that no one hears you when you talk to yourself. You're lucky that no one sees you when they think you're not doing anything, when you're masturbating in the dark. You're lucky that no one sees you when you're not doing something. Don't be a celebrity. Try not to be a celebrity. Try not to be known too much, because people will always come up with opinions about you, and eventually those opinions will be true because people manipulate, and society manipulates because it's a lie. Not really a lie, but people lie because they're stupid. And they want to see what happens, you know? Realizing that no one is ever going to be the thing you actually need, or everything, or anything that you actually want. And if you do say that, then you're most likely being sarcastic. The realization of the fact is you can't be everything for everyone. You can't be everything that they want. You can't be. It's impossible. There's no room for it. In their mind, they're just, oh my God, you're everything. Holy shit, I can't even match up to you. Like, that's it. That's all they'll say. No matter if you match up or not. Because they usually want something a little bit more humble. And probably something a little bit more gentle. The realization of the fact is that if you're just a healthy distraction, and all you do is make people's lives better, you become more than just a celebrity. You don't become a star. You don't become anything else. You just become yourself. And I think that could be sustained forever, even though the finite amount of resources in our universe. I think that could be sustained forever. Becoming a star is probably something that'll burn out and do something stupid, like try to make some sort of cable signal not work, or something like that. That'll knock out a satellite. That satellite will hit a celebrity, and then that celebrity will be like, oh no, he died. He shouldn't have died. No. Oh, shit. Oh, I'm so sad, kind of. But I didn't really know him that much because he was kind of a dick to everyone. Metaphorically speaking. He's not really a dick to everyone. He doesn't, but he just hoards his money. Hoarders, they usually do that. They hoard money, they hoard, among other things. And that's not really cool. You kind of got to share it around sometimes to keep an economy going. We made $17 billion in the last 12 months. I kept 16.5 billion of that. You get $1 million. Like, wow, oh my gosh, really? I could do so much with that. Wait a second, where's all that money going to? Oh, we're gonna use it to brainwash a bunch of ISIS members and make them think that they love Katy Perry. When in actuality, we want to murder them. Guys, I think the plan failed. I don't think anyone believes us. They all like BTS. their audience. Even so, they do it with style, and that's why you respect them. Shit. I need to die. Or I'm gonna die and I need to heal. You know what you need? It's like a disembodied voice from the 50s. You know what you need? Protein bars. That's right, protein bars. Protein bars will do the trick. Hey, I'll give you 50 of them. Pay me later. This is only 15. Ah, it's 50. Shit. I know it's a euphemism or an allegory that they would give you some later, but technically you would have already shit them out. Like it's a joke, but it means they're never going to give you any more. It's 50 because they used so many resources to make them, and then they didn't really like. But like when you shit it out, you can eat it again, and then die. But that's the bad one. But it means that they used enough resources in there for 50 bars in 12 bars. So like a lot of people have realized or tried to realize that over time we kind of gain a lot of energy, but we also need more food because we are technically evolving before our very own eyes. The more power we use, the more things we do, the more we need. And that's kind of the thing that actually makes or breaks us, I think, in the long run. Whether we're positive, negative, or any of the different gray areas in between, or non-gray areas. The realization of so many different kinds of life is the realization of the fact of humility is the most important trait that anyone could actually ever possess or even have in their life. The realization of the fact that no, if you punch that table, that girl's gonna spill her drink and then she's gonna send her boyfriend to try to hit you. Or no, if you yell at the TV screen in the bar, then people are going to shush you, and then they're secretly not going to like you at that bar anymore. And no, if you throw that armoire on that car, then that guy's going to take out insurance claim on you, and you're going to have to pay him restitution and unbelievable amounts of money for the rest of his life because of the traumatization of the exact fact of that. And a lot of bands and a lot of people don't really know why they think that they should destroy shit, but understandably so. It's more like when they were a kid and they were not experiencing that, or they were not experiencing something and they expected more out of life, and someone suggested that they should be in a rock band, and then they thought it was everything, and that's when they thought they could just do whatever they wanted. And that's basically the feeling of being a rock star. It's just very fleeting and extremely hard to maintain. And what people should understand really more so is that the more you look at a situation, the more you realize that you're not ready, and the more you realize that you're a little bit too drunk to drive, or you're a little bit too hurt to be able to do something that people say is amazing, or you're a little bit too small to realize that if you do that, then you could technically invert your digestive system, because you're still learning a lot of different things, and just because you can do a backflip doesn't mean you should do a backflip. I mean, you can, but not usually, so just know the risk of everything involved. Like, too much of this right here, like keeping your hands out straight, can hyperextend your elbows. And it can make you do like this and have to crack your arms constantly. Yep. Too much of actually being in that little harness right there that actually goes around your hips can cause hypertension and ALS and RLS. Not only so because it sends the blood back up to your brain, because too much blood in the brain can cause an aneurysm and a lot of different other health things. Bending down too much can cause lower back and upper back pain a lot. Jumping into windows can cause arthritic and osteoporosis, no matter if you've been drinking stuff or not, because you're basically putting all your weight on your palm bone. And that's why a lot of different dudes who are Shaolin monks have trained for literally and had teachings for centuries. Like they have, like as a whole, they probably have about 600 to 700 years of experience in the actual field of medicine and fighting and non-fighting and non-violent tactics and psyops and a bunch of different shit that to make their society better, and that's basically what they live for. To have a purpose is something very amazing, and to be able to understand the true nature of something, or be able to see past the allegory and realize the actual steps it takes to be able to make yourself something amazing. But to realize that you're not using that person or that using that thing to be able to make yourself feel better is even more satisfying than saying, hey, I didn't steal that. I didn't steal a bunch of stuff. And then that's the reason why a lot of those dudes and like, I found a guy who was like, they become producers. People like that who are like in the mafia or in the thing like that. They become and produce things, and they create different staples for different things. They become that because they've been that for a while. They've hooked up people with a bunch of different stuff. They've been able to make things for different people. They're not really in the mafia. Just people have put rumors about them being in the mafia, so everyone stays away from them because they want to protect their goods and their stuff. Most of the time, though, they really know some badass fucking dudes, and they're not even close to being in the mafia. They're close to being a militia. And that's basically what a lot of dudes in the movies do is, and the reason why there's a lot of people who are in the movies can mimic things like spies and stuff, not because they've watched spy movies, but because they've actually studied the craft of old spies and realized that they used a bunch of different tactics that people used to use in the 50s, 40s, and 30s. And all those things are declassified. So that's the reason why a lot of people think that, oh my god, the actors are like spies and stuff. They're spies for the government and blah, blah, blah. No, they are not. They're the furthest thing from it. They're actually literally sometimes their own colony, and sometimes even their own country in some places. That's the joke about on Family Guy. The joke about the dude becoming his own country is that a lot of times whenever they're making a movie that actually has some sort of profound meaning or is recognized by a certain government, they have amnesty from that government. So anything that goes wrong or actually happens, they get it. They get amnesty. Like if somebody gets murdered, they were doing something that would change everything. So they all get like free tickets to like not license to kill, but like you get a ticket and a slap on the wrist because you were doing something amazing. Like that's that's basically what it is. So like a lot of times people don't realize that we're slowly being taken over by another government sometimes. And they have to realize that's happening, that we shouldn't be fighting in Democrats and Republicans, that we should realize how many differing opinions actually exist and also like adhere to those opinions sometimes because they are part of our society. If we don't want to be a lie, then we have to listen to those people. You have to. I mean, you should want to, because it's usually their job that they didn't fucking do, instead of lobbying for cigarette companies to make me smoke at 32. Jeez, I need to quit. But it's always about the products, man. Gotta sell those products because people got a voice. Get that voice, man. Get that voice. What? Oh my gosh. Get that thing that people want. Let me put my product around you. Then everybody will think that the reason why you got that is because of that voice. Or the other way around. Or, yeah. Or the reason why that voice is yours is because of that product. And that's what it is. I wear, shorts. Shorts that cover my knees, because I have a lot of scars on my knees, and I'm really insecure. Oh, man. Is that a dude? No, that's not a dude. That's a barrel. Okay, there are a lot of times in situations that I've used jokes to make sure that I can, like, be the in guy or something like that. And even my brother and my friends have literally pushed me out of every conversation. Started talking about something that I didn't know anything about, and I was having to learn on the fly while everyone else was just, oh my god, did you see that thing the other day? Oh my gosh, that thing was crazy, wasn't it? And I'm like, what? Oh my gosh, that does sound good. You were really excited when you said that. Oh my goodness, I have this dude, he's selling these mints, and I think you should buy them because mints are great and they help your breath. No, they don't. They make you smell good for a little while, though. And that's the important part. They're not an everlasting gobstopper. Those were outlawed in 12 countries. Back when there were only 12 countries. The more you realize, though, the more you start to see the usefulness of everything. The realization of fact is that sometimes people get lonely, and if it weren't for mental instability and a lot of different things, most dudes who were convicted of a lot of different atrocities to children would be a moral high ground for standards and a lot of different things, but people didn't accept those things back in the day. They were too nervous that everyone was going to hurt them, and then sometimes they wound up hurting them anyway because they were just angry and they wanted somebody to be around. You know? They didn't realize they were angry. A lot of times people don't realize those things until something bad happens, and they wind up crying themselves to sleep or shooting themselves in the head. People don't know why those things happen. People don't know what happens to people who go absolutely insane. But I can tell you right now that it's not some outside force. And if it was, then it would be known, or it would show itself. Because if it was anything extraterrestrial, then they would take credit for it. The reality is, a lot of times, people don't get things just because sometimes they want to keep it a secret. Sometimes they want to keep things just peachy and no one else to know about their dealings or hurtfulness or terrible, fucking idiotic, stupid moral system. And it's not just Scientologists. They blame all their shit on Scientologists, and I'm tired of religion acting like it's just so fucking high and mighty and everything just so amazing, and we can use anything we want to, and it's not copyrighted. Guess what? Most of it is. And they're about to get sued for a shit ton of money. Because Canada has had enough of religion for a really long time. They had enough of it. They had enough of it in England. They had enough of it everywhere else. And it always turns into something completely and utterly fucked up. Because everyone's so easily manipulatable. Everyone's so easily told that, oh, it came from the gods and the heavens and all that other different shit. Or they say like, hey, if it came from the blah, 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 blah. Or something. Say like this thing. And they trust people way too much. Understandably so. They shouldn't kill them though. Or have genocides. Or any of those things, just because they believe they're right or wrong or anything. A lot of times people believe that it was actually Satanists that started World War II. I'm here to tell you that that's probably true. But it was also a handful of other people that kind of wanted it to happen anyways, because they owned all the buildings and stuff like that, and they wanted them demolished so they could collect the insurance. It's a lot of times what happens to a bunch of different wars, and the reasons why people actually collect anything at all is they're promised something, and it's by the government if that building gets dilapidated or is abandoned, and that's the reason why. A lot of different wars actually happens just so they can destroy some buildings and collect intel. That's all they do. Because all the people who have awesome stuff, they just break it because they know it's not going to work with them, because they never have instructions. Because if they actually wanted anyone to have it, they would have instructions, and then they would be paid for everything, and that would be better. But that's not what they want. They want war. So, but that's not what they're going to get, because they're just going to take all away their shit and break it, and then take them hostage, and then take them to Guantanamo Bay and ask them why they had it in the first place. And then they're going to say do a database. Didn't really hack into a database. More like stole a child away that was really smart and tried to make him use a whole bunch of different stuff and acted like he did it, and then they acted like he did it, and then a bunch of different things. And that child was Osama bin Laden, because that happens. And the cycle of hate went through him, and he got controlled by a bunch of different opinions that were around him because he believed that he was better than everyone else. Because he thought he was. He thought he was better. And that's usually the only reason why anyone does anything crazy. Because they think they're better. And they're not. And they're still controlled by their anger, or still controlled by someone else's suggestion. And in most cases, you can suggest that they kill themselves, and they will. And they'll do it in God's name. And in the early days, religion used them for a lot of stuff. Because they thought that every single life should be used, but that was the trick. That was the veil on the eyes. They didn't want to let you know how many people that were crazy or needed medication or anything like that. They want to make you feel fearful of anybody, because they thought that if you make them mad, then they'll do something terrible. Or, no, they'll just... Sometimes people do terrible things just because they feel like it. Most of the time. But most of the time, I think you should understand that... People should understand that... The more you look at a situation, the more that situation becomes a suggestion. The more that situation becomes a pattern. And the more you get controlled by that pattern. And the more that pattern that people believe, and whatever they believe or however they believe, makes them think that they're impervious to pain. And eventually, their nerve endings just stop working. It's technically an adaptation. Also technically an evolution. Their brain learns how to shut it off, and sometimes they won't be able to turn it back on because they've used so many drugs to actually get there. Basically, using your emotions to get somewhere can never get you back. That's the point of mentally no return and emotion. And there are a lot of different things wrong with that. But understandably so. Whether I'm wrong verbally or whether I'm wrong initially, that doesn't mean anything. It means that I'm learning. It means that I'm adapting. It means that I'm evolving. And so is everyone else. And so should everyone else. And not worry about anybody else's bullshit. Or anybody else's beliefs for that matter. Be yourself before anything else. Because literally if you do help people, if you do realize your goals, if you do have your aspirations and keep those aspirations, and don't just hide them from people, but keep those aspirations and share them with others, then eventually world peace happens. It's attainable and it's real. And whatever heaven people believe in, I mean, that exists in some other form of engagement or a form of reality, or whatever reality they think is real, could become a reality they exist in if they're patient, willing to change, and understanding. Because the more you believe in change, the more it changes for you. The more you believe in sustainability, the more the abundance will be. But understandably so, the more abundant things are, usually, sometimes the more poisonous things can get. Because animals and plants have an evolution, and they're destined to complete it. And eventually they probably won't even be like us. They'll probably try to be better than us. And that's what I think a lot of people don't realize anime really is. It's a look into the future of what we could be, and our predecessors, or our next evolution, or a lot of different things, because people don't realize that these things can possibly happen, and there are beings out there that are probably way more powerful than us already. But that's not provable because science and stuff and probability. Most people actually don't even realize that a lot of physics is bullshit, because most of the time people don't even realize that they're not living on borrowed time, but their time wasn't borrowed to begin with. Some people are technically not alive. Not to say in the sense of like they're not beating hearts or anything like that, but some people have grown so fast, so past the point of evolution. There he is. Damn it. Some people have grown so far past the point of evolution that they are no longer considered human, and that's what I mean by alive. Because technically life is just the existence in society. Our existence is based upon the life we share, kind of. So if we don't tell anybody anything, then really we're kind of off the radar. But understandably so. It's like people make pitfalls for themselves so many times and don't even realize it, because it's in their own pattern. The pattern that they made for themselves, the pattern that was suggested to them, and the pattern that usually makes their end. Because they'll make a bigger and better trap. They'll make a bigger and better thing. They'll always come up with something that's better, because it's their passion is to catch people who do bad things. Their passion. It's their life. Their real life. And that's something said. Because realizing that someone's passion, it is to bring someone to justice, it means they truly care about them. And just that realization can probably save someone from any atrocity, or experiencing any atrocity and realizing the fact that people still love them and they feel like they don't deserve it, so they run away. But understandably so, the realization of fact is that they do. And they realize that they do once they go through therapy and realize that they deserve their aspirations and goals and what they thought of when they were a child and experienced and got dashed down by whoever. They didn't deserve to be there. They didn't deserve to be their friends. They didn't deserve to be their family. And they deserved a support group that actually helps them. Someone that actually is there for them. And a lot of times people don't realize this, is there's so many kids that actually do need adoption. And and there's so many kids that actually do need that something for themselves. That thing that helps them, that gets them through the day. And that realization is the only thing that sometimes they should even know. Is knowing that someone has their back and realizing the fact that no matter what happens, they still have someone that's most likely proud of them. And that changes history, experience, all of it. So I'm at an hour and 26 minutes. I'm going to finish this round and then I'm probably going to go to bed because I am sweaty and tired because I had 2 energy drinks. It's what I love about positive reinforcement. Is you can't take it back, but it's something that's always received again. And no matter what you do, no matter how you decide to do something on that day, no matter what you decide to be able to do, the realization is you're a wonderful person only if you give yourself the chance. No matter what you believe, no matter what you believe in, no matter how you believe, no matter the situation that guides you along your way, no matter what you created or what created you, or who created you, whoever cares about that, it doesn't matter to me. The situation is you only give yourself as much power as you're only giving yourself as much power as much as you suggested when you were younger. The only pattern you ever run sometimes is a pattern over and over and over and over again until that pattern disappears. Yeah, here we go. 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 Son of a bitch. I think he killed him. Oh, you bastard. Yep, he got me. I was wearing a helmet. No, I wasn't. Forgot that was last game. So, you are your own one-person bomb squad. And you can diffuse situations that you think are happening. But sometimes if they're not, realize that you might need some therapy, or you might need to be able to go back to what you think of or how you think of, because not every therapist is right. Not every person that evaluates you knows exactly what you're thinking, because you can only tell them what you believe or how you believe, or lie to them and then get a wrong answer, because if you don't want to be helped, then there's no helping. So Realize that first question, and then if you're not honest with yourself or other people, then eventually you'll have no friends at all. And realize that this is the truth. I mess with people, and I love messing with people. I really do love messing with people, but understandably so, I don't mess with them if they don't want to be messed with. I don't try to mess with people and make my day out by pranking someone that day. I don't go out like Jamie Kennedy and like go and like, oh my god, I had no idea you were just like wanted to be pranked like this. And that's basically the conversation that he had with every celebrity before he actually pranked them. Which probably pissed them off, but then he paid them money. And then that's how he did it to all of them, because he paid them money before he did it. So realize that, and understand that actors know how to act. They will always be actors. That haters gonna hate. How's it going, viewer? I'm about to sign off because I've been on for 1 hour and 31 minutes. So, thank you for showing up, but it's time for me to go. So, or go to bed. So, have a good day, and, be yourself, and have a good one.